Hey guys, thanks for coming back for the Bag 2 build of the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 from Lego. We're about to get started on this second set in the build process, but first, our next custom minifigure. Here we have the minifigure version of Walter Peck from the first Ghostbusters movie. To create this minifigure, I used the head from a character named Latham from a Lone Ranger set. I used the same sculpt of the hair from Race Dance, but in reddish brown. The torso is borrowed from a Lex Luthor minifigure, and the legs are just black legs for black pants. Okay, so I've got Peter Venkman in his street clothes over here, Walter Peck in his suit over here. I'm going to socially distance them from each other. And I've got all the parts milled out over here on the table. That saves like 5 to 10 minutes from the video time, just me sorting them. Imagine me digging through looking for the actual colored pieces, how long that would take if I were to do that on video. So it's a good thing that I take the break to take those out for the time's sake. These are already going to be long videos. So if you watch the first one, I finished bag 1. I have the brick separator, and this is what resulted from bag 1. So main kind of base chassis of the car, we've got a little bit of steering going on the front axle. And so this is what bag 2 consists of. I admit to being OCD about laying out my parts, but I'm not so OCD that I have to have all the colors together. I just try to get things lined up so it just looks separate enough so I can look down and find the parts, but the blacks are kind of spread out, and they got some grays in different parts. So if that bothers you, I'm sorry. Doing the best I can to make sure I'm going to be able to function okay and do this quickly enough and still be able to focus on the video as well. So we're starting with step 35 here for bag 2. Bag 2 did come with 2 bags, but bag 2 is considered what is in these 2 bags together to be one section. So this first one, I'm going to start using a lot of these 1x2 cheese wedge pieces, and I'm assuming these are going to go on the side of the car, but now that I'm looking back, I completely missed step 35. So we'll actually start with the first step I'm supposed to. How about that? So going to have a lot of gray and a lot of black in this step, but you'll see there's also a lot of color mixed in with the red, green, and the yellow and blue. I don't know how much of that is actually going to show through on the interior and exterior of the car, or just be parts of the internal parts of the car itself, the structure of it. Let's see, one more over here. And I think a lot of times Lego will throw in things in different colors that we don't necessarily need, like all these 2x4 yellow tiles, just so they get the inventory out there in the hands of the public. So whether we're building this set or not, there are builders out there that will buy sets just for the parts and then part them out and sell them to other people for mocks or replacements for other sets, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the blue and the yellow shows through once we're finished with not only this step, but the ones leading up right after it, or following right after it. So we're back to 36 where I was before. We're going to use 26 of these 2x6 or 1 cheese wedge pieces. So I'm going to go off of these 1x10 plates and then hang off the edge on either side. So I'm going to do 2 of these. Okay. And then there's a 1x3 black plate on either end. And we'll cap those off with more of our wedge pieces. Alright, so there's one. I'll go ahead and make another one. So hopefully you like the Walter Peck minifigure. That one, it's hard to find a Caucasian flesh tone minifigure with a full beard, kind of in a reddish color like that doesn't have any other facial features that I'm trying to avoid, like glasses or anything. So that one, I believe, like I said, came from a Lone Ranger set. I did buy a Lone Ranger train set, the Constitution or whatever it was called, just because I like the train, not because I like the Lone Ranger movie that came out, the Disney one. And so the minifigures that came with that, I had no real interest in them, but kind of like what I was talking about before, they became inventory for me for later things. And so him having a dark reddish brownish beard was perfect for Walter Peck. Not only that, and having a scowl on his face. So was happy to have that already in my collection. I didn't have to go to Bricklink or to a store to try to locate something like that. And I believe I already had the hair too. Most of these minifigures I'm going to show to you, I built leading up to or right after when the Ghostbusters Firehouse set came out, which has probably been about 5 or 6 years ago by now. And I had also a mock basement for the Ecto-containment unit that I had built at one time too. It's kind of in parts now. But I took a lot of pictures of that and then had the minifigures. So you're going to see more minifigures from that Ecto-containment unit scene as we continue along here. But Peter's clothes there fit that scene as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and get 9 of these. One of these, kind of get my parts out of the way and ready for these. Alright. But yeah, so I don't expect Lego to ever put out a Walter Peck minifigure. And that was about the best I could come up with. Mostly, like I said, for my own inventory. The suit was from Lex Luthor. We ended up having 2 different Lex Luthor mech sets that my kids had gotten at one point. I think one was for our house and one was for Grandma's house or something like that. And so we had more than one. And so I had some different figures to be able to play with and do with what I needed to without completely compromising that set. So here's where a lot of these yellow pieces are going to go. We're getting a nice smooth floor here. And I did notice when I opened bag 2, one of the tiles here, the round black tile here, does have the proton pack cyclotron on it. So this is going to be the, I believe this is going to be the section where we build the gunner seat from the Ghostbusters Afterlife Ecto-1. So I'm imagining this might be the part where it's nice and smooth to give that enough, make it free from friction so that the seat can move in and out as it needs to. Make sure I got everything I needed to before I turn the page. And we're on to step 38. 5 of these. 3, 4, 5. And a couple of red ones. And the blue one. A lot of different colors in this section. So, one. Gonna build over this little gap here. Trying to keep my eye on this, make sure I get these in the right places. There. There's all the light bluish gray. The blue goes here. Green goes here. Red and red. Okay, so that one went pretty quickly. We're going to get into another gear. The yellow post. The blue. Alright, so this is going to be the connection for the steering column. And that gets pushed all the way through, so this gear turns the same gear up here that the steering wheel will turn for the front wheels. And there'll be like a post that goes down that connects that. Maybe not in this section, we'll see. Long brick. There's a lot of these 1x3 black bricks. And these 2 yellow ones. We'll start with the yellow. Alright, this one is going to show me the correct way to place this one Technic piece, so I'm going to pay attention to that. Trying to pull over the pieces as I need them and kind of stage them for myself over here so I don't have to keep going back and forth as I'm building. 2 of these. Sorry, my chair is kind of squeaky too. Slide back. 2 of those. I think that's it. All right. So now that we've gotten the Ecto-1 and we have an 89 Batmobile that's been produced by Lego, I don't have it, but it's available, as well as the Batwing from 89. I'm curious what other cars from movies you think will come up for Lego, if any, kind of the movie car genre. They've been doing a lot of full-size cars like this. There's been Volkswagens, the Mustang, some supercars, but there they go. Now that we're starting to get into the movie cars on the licensed sets they already have, I'm thinking it's just natural to get a larger DeLorean from Back to the Future before it gets too late, right? This goes this way. I have the Lego Ideas, or Lego Cuso, however you pronounce it, set that came out about 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm currently sourcing out some parts. I dug through my own parts bins, and there was a YouTube video I watched of someone who built an 8-wide DeLorean time machine that I felt was better and more smooth and really captured the look of the time machine a lot better than the one we got from Lego. Even the original fan build I felt was better than what we eventually got from what Lego produced. I didn't like how the front end of that DeLorean was kind of all over the place. It wasn't smooth. That's kind of the look of that car, is very sleek, especially in the front of it. And it was choppy. And it didn't have a windshield. Both minifigures didn't really fit in there together very well, Marty and Doc. It could have been done a lot better. So I did find that one video. I can't pronounce the name of the guy that did it without looking at it. It's an interesting way to build that. But I watched his video, did a lot of starting and stopping, and kind of made a parts list of some stuff that I had on hand, and then made a list of things that I need to add either through Bricklink or through the store. And I'm planning on doing, after I'm done with all this, and kind of Christmas time kind of settles down, I'm going to go buy some of those parts and make a DeLorean that I'm a little bit more happy with. So it's minifigure scale, but more along the lines of what I feel a DeLorean in Lego form should look like. So happy though that the Ecto-1s that they've all produced up to this point have been on point. I think the main gripe about the Ecto-1 was that 3 of the figures that came with the set would fit in there, but it was really hard to cram 4 of them in there without modifying the car. And the doors didn't open. Another one from the 2016 movie had a little bit more flexibility in that area, but I didn't get that one. I'm sure that's supposed to be open. Yes. And so that was probably one of the main gripes. And then another thing was when the Firehouse came out, you couldn't really park Ecto-1 all the way in to the Firehouse and get the doors closed and then open it back up with the Ecto-1 still in there without having to move either Janine's desk or Peter's desk to give the clearance for it. But to me, those are minor gripes. I like the exterior of those cars, so just kind of looking at them on the shelf, or that one on the shelf, it's pleasing to look at least. And I usually have my minifigures staged around it, doing other things I might have one or two behind the wheel. I guess one behind the wheel because that's all it would fit. But I like having my figures in action, so to speak, when they're on display. So, get some more platform action going here. This is probably going to be more the color that you do see when you open the car when it's completed. So a lot of this blue and green and yellow and red, as I predicted, is just going to be there for structure and not really something that you have to have that certain color to make the car look right. So if you're ever doing builds, you're going back and let's say you're trying to convert the Ecto-1 into a 1A and you're trying to do it out of the parts, maybe in your collection. Kind of go through as you're flipping through to see what parts you'll need and consider which ones are going to be visible on the interior and on the exterior and which ones are just structure like that. Because if it's just structure, you're not limited by what color you can choose from when it is time to pick those parts. And so that will free you up to not have to be so particular about which pieces to look for or which ones in your own inventory to consider. You might have a lot of black pieces or a lot of light bluish gray pieces. And it would just free you up to use as many of them in that color as you need. And then maybe just save most of the white for the exterior for an Ectomobile or gray for a DeLorean, black for a Batmobile, whatever the case may be. But you could have purple on the inside for the structure for all that matters. So this is coming along pretty nicely, pretty quickly. We're about to build the arm that either releases or pushes back in the gunner seat over here, which we haven't really talked about yet. Pretty cool addition to the Ecto-1 that we've seen, you know, just from the clip in the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer. All we've really seen is it just, you know, come out and then it shows Phoebe firing in the trailer. But we really don't know where it came from, how long it's been like that, who modified it to be like that. Is it something that was modified after the Ghostbusters went out of business? This car is in Oklahoma. How long has the car been in Oklahoma? Was Egon the one that was keeping up with it before the... oops, I missed a step there. Before it was converted. And then there's the question that comes up. Is Ecto-1 the same car as Ecto-1A? And if so, if Ecto-1 is Ecto-1A from Ghostbusters 2, why in Ghostbusters Afterlife is the Ectomobile converted almost completely back into the form that we saw at the end of Ghostbusters in 1984, including the orange mid-80s New York license plate that says Ecto-1 and not Ecto-1A. At the beginning of Ghostbusters 2, the car was still Ecto-1, but it had a 1989 license plate on it, which was white and not orange. So, later in that film, we see the Ghostbusters driving around in what I've always understood to be the same car. Make sure I get this in the place it's supposed to go. I've always thought it was, you know, hey, it's the same car. It's Ecto-1. We're calling it Ecto-1A now. Great, they can call it whatever they want to. I've always assumed as a kid, even through adulthood, okay, it's the same car. Why would they buy a second car of the same model when they already had the first one? Because we've already seen it in the first of the movie. Why would they buy a second one to leave the other one stock, or as they had created it in Ghostbusters 1? Why would they switch things around or have a second vehicle when they could have just used the same one from the first go around? So I'm curious how they will address it if at all in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Continuity will bother me if it's something that's not addressed. If they need to just come out and say, oh yeah, it was two different cars, we ended up having to, you know, park this other one out there. We had a parts car, we painted it out to look like the first one. And that's what Ecto-1A was. Great, you know, that explains it for me. I'm happy with that. I have a feeling they're not really going to address it much, and they just went with the one car that they know will be more recognizable by the majority of people that will see the movie. And those won't be the crazy fans like me who will recognize the details from that kind of thing. Like, oh, it's Ecto-1, it's the car from Ghostbusters. But I was also doing some thinking. If they already had Ecto-1, and then they're going to put a lot of gear on top of it, change it up into what it became in Ghostbusters 2. And it also wasn't just the roof that changed. They changed the way the mirrors mounted. The hubcaps looked different. It had a different bumper on the back that was painted red, and it fit a different way. So all of that had been modified, as well as the roof rack. And it also got a different license plate. This is what made me think. If I were going to have the same car and continue to use it, would I register it with to get license plates, custom license plates made for a new car, or a different car, I'm sorry? Would I go through the trouble of having different license plates named when I could have just continued to call the car that I was using Ecto-1 and use the same plates? Why would they go through the process of getting new custom plates to put on the same car? Only to change it from Ecto-1 to Ecto-1A on the plates. It seems, you know, kind of silly. I know that it was Ecto-2 at one point through the process when they were writing the movie, and they changed it to 1A for the movie just so it wouldn't be confusing to the kids that had seen the cartoon and knew that Ecto-2 was a helicopter and not a car. But that would be the one little caveat that would lead me to think, okay, maybe this is a second car, because they had to differentiate it from the first car, and it couldn't be called Ecto-1 because that plate was already used on the other car. So that's my fan theory there. Maybe a reason why we do have the original looking Ecto rundown in the barn in Oklahoma that they found with the gunner seat on it, and that's what brought me into thinking about all this. So I stopped building for a second because here on step 59, we have the first spot where they want me to put a rust sticker on the white exterior. I may eventually do that. I may eventually put the rust stickers on these panels, but I'm not going to start out that way. And it's not because I have a hatred for any stickers like some Lego fans are. It's that I don't trust that all of these stickers placements on the Lego pieces are going to line up with the way that it looks with the rust that we see on the car in Afterlife. So what I might do is just wait until after my build is complete, and then I'll go through and determine then where the rust looks best on the car. Not necessarily where Lego tells me to put it, but where I think it looks more accurate to the way that the rust details are shown on the car in the movie. I know that's particular and that's probably stupid, but I also want to see it clean white when it's first built, rather than have it all rusted up. I can't undo that. So we're going to start off with it white either way, and then maybe make that transition. Okay, so that was step 59, putting this white piece on. This white piece is the button that is going to push the gunner seat outward eventually. So I'm not going to get all ahead of myself with that. I'm just going to place it where it goes and hope that I have everything lined up correctly. If I need to go back and adjust it, I can. So we're winding down. All we've got left, the majority, is black pieces here. And so I'm guessing most of this is the proton pack that is mounted in the gunner's seat. Anyway, I was going back, and what I eventually first meant to say is the gunner seat is a cool evolution of what we see in Ecto-1. We really didn't get to see much of Ecto-1 in action, other than driving around corners and getting in and out of the car in either of the first two movies. So it's kind of cool that Ecto-1 gets to be its own character in Ghostbusters Afterlife, in that, at least in the trailer, we see a lot of it. A lot of the photos that we've seen from people that were there during shooting, Ecto-1 was heavily involved, at least in what they were allowing people to photograph. So it having a gunner seat, and then another thing that we'll see later on here with the little RC trap. I like that they put some thought into that and made functionality for the car so that it can be an intercept vehicle and not just transport. Because it's always had the stuff on the roof, and it's never really been explained what everything does. Or, you know, as fans, we've kind of assigned different things what we want, you know, think it ought to be called, or what it looks like it might be. Make sure I get this in there. There we go. But now we get to see Ecto-1 with a little bit more personality. This needs to move down one. And function. So I'm hoping they don't end up totaling out the car and basically killing off the car in the movie, but the 1959 Cadillac specialty vehicle. There weren't a lot of them to begin with, and then what were out there, fans say like me, but I've never had the means to get one. If I did, I would get one and I would convert it over into an Ecto-mobile. And so plenty of people have done that. And so the inventory and availability of those kind of cars has completely dwindled because everybody turned them into Ectomobiles, the ones that worked, or they parted them out, or they used those parts to make nice 59 Cadillac convertibles, things of that nature. So there's not a whole lot of them out there. Let me make sure I put that on there right. I added one more extra of those, so this needs to come off. So what I'm kind of getting at, you've got a 59 Cadillac that by 2020, when this movie is supposed to come out, would have been a 61-year-old car that maybe, from what we've seen in the trailers of this movie, may have been sitting for 30 years. So a 60-year-old car that barely been driven in the last 30 years probably doesn't have a whole lot left in it. So we may be seeing the last of Ecto-1, and then if the Ghostbusters do continue past this point in the new movie, if it's leading to a sequel of some sort, or maybe this is the end of the franchise, I doubt it, but I wouldn't cry if it was, if it has a good send-off. But who knows if they're going to have a new Ghostbusters car for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. For them to be using. If Ecto-1 does in fact meet its demise in this second movie, or this in Ghostbusters Afterlife. So, all right, so we're rounding down here. We found the right piece. It's such a cool car. I mean, just as a movie car. And I don't know what gives it the mystique it does. It's with a goofy roof rack and the color scheme and the No Ghost logo on the side. Maybe it's just that so many of us that are my age fell in love with it from the cartoon, where it did have more functionality. The toy, the Kenner Ecto-1, did have plenty of functionality with the claw that came out the back, and basically the gunner seat that was on the roof there, where you could attach one of your Ghostbusters to the top and drive it around and catch ghosts. You know, that had a lot to do with making it look cool in my eyes. All right. So we're wrapping it up here with these black pieces. Looks like we're almost done. Building kind of the L shape here. We're a little over three bricks tall here. And now we're going to use this clip piece, 1x4 tile. Little slope. Probably can't see that from where you're sitting, especially against my black jacket, sorry. But this is a black table too. I did put not a tablecloth, but a sheet down on top of it so that more of these colors would stand out while doing these videos. Okay. So here we're building the proton pack, and the proton pack is mounted to the gunner seat here. In the photos and in the clips that we've seen from the trailer, is a little bit rearranged from a normal proton pack. the iron arms in a different place. A few other parts are rearranged to make it fit, and you know, give the creators of this equipment the license to make those changes, because you know, in universe they know what all this stuff does and where it goes and how it can be swapped around way better than us fans do that think we know everything about them. So there's our proton pack. We're going to take it and let's see. This is the way that the seat sits. And it's just going to mount to the back at the top. Make sure I got it lined up in the right spot. More towards the right end than the left, so it's not quite centered on there. There's one row of studs that run through the left side of it. Double check that I got that right. It does appear that I do. Okay, now we're going to build the Neutrona wand. And it's interesting to see that, again, just like the proton packs we've built before for the minifigures, they're using this whip piece that we first saw with Catwoman. Oops. To be our loom between the Neutrona wand and proton pack. I'm trying to get it in there to stay. Without pushing off that stud. So that's kind of tricky. So this is going to just kind of hang off to the side, it appears. There's nothing, well, there is something for it to clip on. It'll clip right there. And then the small end of the whip hooks in at the top instead of the bottom like you would on a normal proton pack. Re-angle it to kind of match more of the picture. It sticks out a little bit more. So close to being done, and I have to delay things here. You're probably ready for me to be done with it. So far, bag 2 has been fun. We've got a lot more. It's not just structure, we're seeing more that we're going to be able to identify with the interior of the car when we are done with it. So that's more the angle that it looks like in the picture. Now, let's see, we turn it. Man. There we go. You turn this thing 5 different directions before you realize which way it's supposed to go. Alright, this little gold cylinder on the bottom, or bronze looking cylinder. Now, we are done with the gunner seat. And make sure I connect it correctly. It appears these 2 holes connect right here on these Technic pins. Looks right to me. Alright, so looks like I may have missed a couple of pieces. I'm going to go back and double check. There are these 2 black ones. Here they are. Somewhere in the process I was talking to you guys and not paying attention, and I didn't put those 2 on there. The rest of these are 1x1s. So calling these extras, we got a 1x1 stud on are here in red, light bluish gray, and green. We've got a black 1x1 cheese wedge, and one of these gold cylinder pieces. And that's what we have left over, and we are done with bag 2. That's what we're looking at here at the end of the second bag. So I'm not going to push the car. Well, let's see if it works. It does work already. So the gunner seat already shoots out at the end of bag 2. And then we can reset it. That's pretty cool. All right. Push that all the way in. There we go. So again, thank you for watching. I'll have more videos in the coming days. Probably something tomorrow I'll upload it. And if you have a request for a certain minifigure you want me to reveal here for my custom series, go ahead and throw it out there. And if not, again, I want to say thank you for watching and stay tuned for bag number 3. See you later.